All right, so welcome back to another conversation with my wife, Corisande, and myself. And this week, we are going to go through some of the most commonly asked questions that we get in the field of manifestation. Now, if you ever see me in my Instagram stories asking you to ask me any question, I just want you to know that I'd love to answer all of them, but I literally get hundreds and hundreds of questions. So what I've done is I've condensed the most commonly asked questions here right now, and I'm going to ask Corisande questions, she's going to ask me questions, and we don't know which questions we're going to get for each other. So it's completely unscripted, unfiltered. It's a raw, honest conversation, and we're going to go from there. So Corisande, do you want to start it off? Do you want to say anything before we kick things off?
I was just going to say thank you so much to everyone that took the time to ask questions. And I know from our experience that when we were first starting out here, I would have loved someone to have kind of, demystified everything that we wanted to know at that time. So hopefully this is going to be really helpful. So do you want me to go first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go for it.
So I'm just going to there's one here that really, really stuck out to me. So if you let me just have a little look to see. Okay, so there's a great one here. This is a fantastic one. So we've been asked by someone, it takes me a day to come out of an emotional trigger, and I try to escape that environment, but I still struggle. What would you suggest someone does in that situation?
So first, honor it. Being a human being is sometimes hard. There are things outside of our control that we can't control. So whether that's, trauma, a family member passing away, or just something unexpectedly happens to us, first understand that all emotion wants to do is move. So emotion really means energy in motion. So the first thing I do, if something has happened to me outside of my control, what I want to do is become aware of that emotion. So my advice is to sit down, get into your body, and just think to yourself, okay, what emotion am I feeling? So I feel nervous. Okay. What is the sensation of that nervousness? It's like a feeling in my stomach. And when you become aware of the sensation in your body, what you're actually doing is giving the emotion space. And emotion meaning energy in motion, just by not trying to control it, not by trying to get out of the emotion, you give it space. So by giving emotion space, by being aware of it, it's the quickest way to free it. So that's what I would recommend. If that doesn't work, the things I love to do is go for a walk, go for a run, do a meditation, do journaling, write down why do I feel this way. But my absolute go-to, if it's not something like that, would either be EFT tapping, the emotional freedom technique, or simply the best way, like I've just said, is to just be aware of the emotion and the sensation and let it naturally free itself.
Okay, I love that.
So question for you is, what is the biggest tip you would give to someone starting out with manifestation?
That is such a good question. So I'm going to look at this as if I'm talking to my younger self. And I think my biggest tip would be keep it simple. And what I mean by that is don't overcomplicate it in your mind. Don't see this as something that's a huge mountain to climb. Simplify it. Realize that all you're doing here is you're taking control, you're taking the reins, and you're just steering your life in the direction that you want it to go in. This isn't about doing something extraordinary. This is literally being a conscious manifester. So just keep that process as simple as you possibly can. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Don't think that, don't overthink what you're doing, or look at other people and think I should be doing it like this, or it should be happening this quickly. Just keep the whole process as simple as possible, but also stay true to yourself, because it's very easy along this road to get, tangled in ego, and easy to kind of go away from your authentic self. Just stay true to you and just keep that whole process as authentic as you possibly can. And that would be, if I could go back now to my younger self and talk to that younger version of me, I'd be saying, get rid of the noise and just be authentic, and as authentic as you possibly can with yourself.
So just on that, just to really double down on that, because I think it's so powerful what you said about keeping it simple, being authentic. But let's just imagine someone's stepping out in manifestation for the first time. They don't know what tools to use. Maybe they're vague on their vision. Maybe it's just they want to feel safer. They want relief. They want a bit more money. Is there a top tip that you would give them just to help them there, just really get started?
Yeah, what I think to add to that would be becoming conscious.
Yeah.
So really becoming aware of who you are now in this moment changes the course of the direction of where you go in the future.
Yeah.
So I think it's being really, really clear on the person you are on a day-to-day basis and catching it, because it's very interesting that when you start observing your thoughts, we've talked about journaling and the power of self-observation. That is the first place to start. And that means almost shadowing yourself and your brain. Even just for a week, it's fascinating to see, wow, I'm being extremely negative here about this person, or I'm being extremely negative about this situation, or I'm always, preempting a situation that's not happening. Just becoming self-aware, that's the first stage to manifestation, is self-observation. So I think, yes, all the things that come with it, the vision boards, the meditation, the gratitude, all of those things are important. But if, those things are nothing without self-observation. So it's being clear on who you are. And I think so many of us, I think this is really interesting. When you start this work, once you become conscious, you realize how many people in your life pull you down, how many people in your life take your energy, and how many things that you do, are, a reason day to day that you might, worry, or that you might see a situation negatively. So really that self-observation is the biggest tool that I think helped me at the very, very beginning. I think once you do that, it's fascinating to actually watch your thoughts from an observer point of view and perspective.
Love that. Great question.
Okay. Well, this one's a really good one. I love this. So, what is your number one tip for developing faith in the outcome of your manifestation?
Faith to me is knowing it already exists, is knowing that I'm part of something greater than what my conscious mind can see. And faith is trusting in the unseen. That's faith. It's a reminder that, I think it makes me a little bit emotional to think about, but it's a reminder that there is so much more to reality than meets the eye. People know the story of how I've connected with my mum. She's no longer in this physical realm. I connected with her. I have the most unbelievable experiences, as you know, Corisande, in the dream state. And I know scientifically that field of intelligence that unifies all things physical, it's the field where our manifestations emerge from, is invisible to us, yet we're part of it. And there's a process, a sequential rendering that happens. So faith is understanding that it won't happen on our human clocks in this linear timescale that we think it should. It happens when it's ready, because that intelligence is so loving. It will give it to you when you can hold on to it. So for example, I just relate this back to my own journey. Money was such an issue for me, such a block. And if I think back, if I was given all the money I once dreamed of when I needed it most, I don't think I would have had the tools or the knowledge, the wisdom, the intellect to understand how to actually hold on to that money. So I had to become an abundant person first. I had to understand the process of money in order to keep it. So faith to me is understanding that just because we can't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
I love that. It's fantastic.
All right, Corisande. So let's look at another question for you then. So, how can I feel happier and more at peace even when nothing seems to be happening?
Wow, that's another fantastic question. I think this is something that if I relate to our own life, so I think it all comes down to realizing that the emotions that you seek that are in the future that you think that you know that you're going to feel when your manifestation is here exists now. So the physical aspect of what you're manifesting, yes, is a physical item, but the emotions attached to that exist now. So I think a great tool and something that I think is so powerful is listing the emotions that you'll feel when that manifestation or that thing that you're seeking comes to fruition, is here in your life. Listing those emotions that you'll feel. And realizing that those emotions you can attach to something now in your life. So whether that's peace, love, happiness, we all have something right now that gives us that. Whatever state you're in your life, we can always find those emotions in something we do now. And I think what so many people fail to realize is that you have to be abundant now. You have to be in love now. You have to be whole now in order for those things to appear in your life. So that means looking at your surroundings, looking at what's around you and saying, right, let me find something that makes me feel worthy now. Let me find something that makes me feel whole now. And the moment that you switch into that version of you, that's when everything starts to happen. So it isn't that nothing's happening and it isn't that there isn't anything around you. It's that what you need to do is you need to associate yourself now with that life and those feelings and those emotions. And so I think a great tool for that, like I say, is just writing down the emotions that you think you'll feel or the emotions that you associate with that future version of you. And going and doing something that makes you feel like that. So, you know, you get a lot of questions about love, for example, meeting someone, having a relationship, finding their soulmate, finding your partner. Now, you need to love yourself first. So what can you do? Take yourself out on a date.
Yeah.
You know, make yourself feel good. Realize that someone else isn't going to make you feel that way.
Can you just on that, because I think this is such an important one, and actually it sounds easier said than done.
Yeah.
And I know that. And I know this is something you really struggle with, because I used to say that to you, especially, buying a house in Cornwall was one of our greatest manifestations, just because so many naysayers said it would never happen and it was wishful thinking. And, Cornwall's a tricky place, or can be a tricky place to try and find to live, let alone buy. So how did you tangibly do that then? Because I said to you, look, Corisande, why don't you write down all the emotions that will be present once we've manifested our dream house? And you said to me, Matt, that'd be relief, and I'd feel excited, and I'd feel free, and I'd feel creative because you're so good at renovating. But how did you tangibly do that when you were living, not that there's anything wrong with rented, but when we were living in rented and there was that realization that we had a baby on the way and that we were in a situation where the landlord at any time could have said, here's your 2 months notice, and it feeling really hard to find a place to buy in Cornwall, tangibly, just so someone watching can relate, how did you do that? How did you live in those emotions and then manifest the house?
Well, I remember writing a list of all the places in Cornwall that made me feel at peace, happy, just like everything was happening and in love with life. And and for me, like you and I love going out for food. We love meals. We absolutely love food. And there are a few restaurants in Cornwall that we absolutely love. Big
shout out to Paul Ainsworth, the Mariners.
Yeah, massive shout out to anyone that hasn't been or has been to Cornwall. It's a place you have to go to. And we used to go there and we'd sit and we would life would just feel like it was all happening. And we'd sit and we'd be having a meal together. And in that moment, I would just forget about the thing. I'd forget about the item. And I would realize, this is it here now. Like I've just embodied this emotion, this feeling, everything now. Even back to when we were manifesting moving here.
When we were in Shropshire.
Yeah, when we were, It would be that I would be thinking about the day we got the keys, going and celebrating. Another restaurant that we love in Padstow is Number 6, which is another one of Paul Ainsworth's place. And we used to, I'd imagined us sitting there and celebrating and the meal and just the energy and that feeling. We'd done it and just, that was what I would rehearse in my head.
Whilst finding the emotions, though, still in Shropshire and somewhere we didn't
and also just to say as well, Even though where we previously lived wasn't where we wanted to live, there were so many places there that we could go to that would make us feel equal to those emotions in the future. So look around you and say, right, okay, where do I go now on a day-to-day basis? Or who do I meet up with now that gives me that energy, makes me feel that way?
Yeah.
And go and do it. Go and do it as much as you possibly can. Make time for it. You know, that's your self-care. That's where you're going to draw the energy in, is doing those things. So, yeah.
Love that.
Okay, so someone has asked, what would you say your favourite book is and why? I know that's going to be difficult because you read so much.
Yeah, I mean, I've read hundreds of books when it comes to this, but I think one book that helped me the most, without a shadow of a doubt, it's my Bible. It stays with me. I read it. Every time I read it, I learn something new. It's deep, it's wise, it's scientific, it's practical, it's grounded, and that's Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza. And the reason I like that is because Joe's got a great way of breaking it down for normal people to understand, but there's the science there at the same time, as well as the meditations to try. It's got brilliant stories in it as well. And it's just that book that really helped me tangibly grasp manifestation, but then go and try it in my own life. And on that, his other books are great as well, 100%. So this is a question for you. And the question is, I'm a busy working mum and studying at the same time. I really want to get into a solid manifestation practice. What's the best way to tap into manifesting / creativity whilst being a mum and studying?
Wow. Amazing. Doing both. What an amazing woman. I think that the first thing is to look at your day and see where. So for some people it's the morning, for some people it's the nighttime, for some people it's the middle of the day. There's no right or wrong way to do any of this. You just have to know that you can have a window of time that you can be present. And that is difficult, I know, when you're busy. But even 5 minutes of being present is enough. It doesn't need to be an hour. It doesn't need to be, any longer than what you can manage, because all that this is about is being able to do something well and being able to give your all to it. And if that's 5, 10, 15 minutes, that's all it needs to be, to have an impact. So I think finding a moment in your day that works for you. Don't listen to the noise of it having to be a certain time. Just think of when you have the right moment to do it. So for me, for example, with Humphrey, a great time is first thing in the morning, but for other people that might be the nighttime. So finding that window first is a good place to start. And then once you've found that window, experiment with what works for you. So for some people, it's writing, it's scripting, it's journaling, it's really getting thoughts to paper. Other people, it's sitting in silence, it's meditating, it's getting deep, it's really thinking and watching those thoughts. For other people, it is just, a form of contemplation, or, just taking and using that energy towards the future. So finding an experiment with what works for you. So actually, for some people, it's trialing 1 week where maybe you just journal.
Yeah.
Trying another week where you just do meditation, trying both, seeing where you get the most amount of results. And when I say results, it isn't actually something happening. It's where you feel you're getting the most from it. So, with this work, I think a lot of people overcomplicate it and think that they have to be mimicking what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. Just take from it what works for you and use it and apply it into your daily life. So I think firstly, observe your day, see where you have those pockets of time and say, right, I'm going to set aside that time each day where I can to do this work.
Love that.
Definitely. Okay, so this is a really, really good one. Someone's asked, how do you navigate a crossroads where there's lots of paths ahead? How do you choose the right one?
So, here's what I do. There's going to be paths, in my opinion, this is just the way I see it, that feel safer, that feel like they're part of the program. They feel a little bit more known. And then other avenues that feel like more of a risk. And all I can say from that, just with my own experience, I can give a very tangible crossroads situation, was there was a part of me that felt like I wanted to break free from my job as an estate agent. and try and manifest my best life through building my own online business and creating some freedom for you and I. But that felt extremely risky because it meant giving up a safe and predictable monthly salary, and it meant facing the unknown. It meant facing negativity and comments from people. And then the other avenue was the safer option, where the carrot was the illusion of job security, promotion. So all I did in that situation was thought about the future version of Matt, the inner elder, not the inner child. And I said to myself, if I could go and have a conversation with that 90-year-old version of myself, what's the one thing that, what advice would they give me? And I came to the realization for myself that they'd probably regret not taking a risk. And I think regret is the worst pill you can swallow. And I thought back to my situation and my crossroads and realized that taking a risk and being free felt more expansive, and staying safe and predictable felt contracted. So really tap into the avenues and think about how it makes you feel. If it's a feeling of lightness and expansion, then and if it feels right, take the aligned inspired action. If it feels more contracted, it's probably the safer option. That's how I came to that realization myself. What about you? Have you been in a situation yourself where you've been at a crossroads? What did you do?
Definitely. And I think what's really interesting is it all comes back to silencing the mind, because if you can silence your mind, it's really interesting. You can actually feel your way through. So I think very often I see this as like your higher mind is like your sat nav. It's flying right above you. It can see all the things that you can't see. It can see the twists and turns in the road that you cannot physically see because you're stuck down here on the floor. And so I always think if you just really feel for those nudges, like where is my mind, where's my body, and where's my soul really taking me here? We all have those moments where we're around someone or something that doesn't make us feel great. So I think really just get clear and really feel your way through. Another one I've got for you here, which I think is really, really important, is someone, actually we've had two questions on this. How long does it take to reprogram your subconscious mind?
Well, the simple answer is it differs. But the average is 66 days. So that's what I would say to everyone, aim for. Whenever I work with a client, I always hold them accountable. There's an accountability sort of challenge that we do with a tracker. And I always recommend 2 months of coaching with daily repetition of that. Don't worry about, it might take me longer. It might take only 21 days. Aim for 66 because 66 is that average. But you have to have repetition. If there's any books that I've read where they're holding you accountable, what they often say is if you miss a day, go back 3. So if you're on this accountability journey and you're aiming for 66 days and you get to day 10 and you miss, go back to day 7. But it has to be everything. So that has to be awareness of thoughts, reframing negativity, daily meditation, journaling. Neuroplasticity tells us, though, that every brain can be remolded, can be changed at any age. So my advice to anyone is to aim for at least the 66-day mark, for sure.
This is a good one. So how do you plan, or how do we plan on introducing manifestation and this work to Humphrey?
Well, at the moment, I am obsessed, and I think anyone who's got young kids, I might go off on a bit of a tangent, and maybe we wrap this conversation with back and forth here together. So children, when they're born, for the first 3 months on average, are in delta brainwaves. And a tangible way to understand that is whenever Corisande and I used to take Humphrey out for, not for a meal, but to a restaurant with us whilst we had a meal. And we were doing that within the first few weeks. We could take him into a restaurant, he'd be in his pram, and he would be in a deep sleep. Nothing would wake him up. And I would say to you, wouldn't I, Corisande, that that's because he's in delta brainwaves. So he's either conscious and then deep restorative sleep. And babies can do that very quickly. From around about the 4-month mark, which is known as this sleep regression, what we then noticed is every time we took Humphrey out, as soon as we stopped the car, got him out of the car seat and into a pram and then into a restaurant, he's pretty much awake. He might drift, but that he's awake. And that's because children at that age are now in theta brainwaves. And theta is where we're highly suggestible. We can get into theta when we go and have a hypnotherapy session, for example. But children stay in that brainwave state on average up until somewhere around about the age of 3, and then they start developing alpha brainwaves. So in my opinion, and you tell me what you think, I'm going to slowly start, in fact, I'm already doing it. So we're noticing Humphrey is just this really present little boy. He loves the outdoors, and we went out just at the weekend, and as we were walking around these gardens, I was just holding him and I was just saying to him, Humphrey, look how alive the trees are. Say hello to the trees. The trees are alive and conscious. And it's just the way I'm talking to him right now. And like from a very early age now, we're really strict on trying to never be on our phones around him. We're trying to be as present as we can. And that's because manifestation, the foundation of manifestation is the present moment. So what I am as a father, and then you can tell me your perspective, Corisande, I'm doing now at this early stage, and he's only 7 months old, is really teaching him and being with him as present as I possibly can. He can only say a couple of words right now. I'm obviously not going to start teaching him manifestation right now, but just teaching him the foundation of attention. Because I think that's what most people struggle with when it comes to manifestation. And then as he naturally just starts to get older and starts to develop alpha brainwaves and then can start, questioning the world, that's when I would love, without forcing him, just to get him into the understanding of then a meditation and the ability to visualize something that he desires as if it's already in his life, never project fear on him, never project any form of negativity towards him, help him understand from a young age that he's not his thoughts, he's separate from them, and just developing from there, but really helping him understand at a really young age that nothing is impossible. He can be anything he desires if he understands the tools, which is what I plan to help him with. What about you? How do you see that from your point?
I think that's really important. I think what you said there about being present.
Yeah.
I think it's something we've both really made a conscious effort to do. And I also think as well, showing and watching him is the best thing at this stage, I think, that we can do. We very much observe, don't we, what his likes and the things he likes to do, and where I've noticed, that he's very happy just playing and, kind of just being very, just being very much in his own sort of world, which I plan on never taking away from him ever. And I think, very much understanding his soul as he gets older, really understanding like who he is and the things that, he's here to do, and very much championing those things within him. But I also think, what you're talking about there is giving a child the ability to stay a child, and to stay in those imaginary kind of moments, and really being kind of able to sit with their own thoughts is something that's really important. I think we can all see a moment in our life where we lose that, but really our inner child should always come out in us, even now at the age we are, even when you get older, your inner child should still be there. So I think really for us it's about just keeping that going, keeping that little fire, just keeping it going.
And just to wrap this conversation up, just for anyone with kids, obviously someone listening might have kids who are older. I might think it's too late. It's never too late. I didn't start this work until I was in my mid-20s. I work with clients who are in their 60s. It's never late, because your brain can always be rewired at any time.
Definitely.
It just means there might be a little bit more work, there might be some trauma. But I think for anyone who has got children, the one thing I will say, I talked about their delta brainwaves, I talked about theta, and I talked about alpha. And then the analytical brain starts to develop a little bit later, anywhere from like 9 to 12 years old. And that's when we really start to question things like, is Father Christmas real though? How does he deliver all those presents around the world in one evening? As soon as your child gets to that point, they're programmed. So delta, theta, and alpha is the subconscious. So at that age, children are an absolute sponge to their environment. They are just downloading information from their external world. So the one thing I am, as a father, being very, very conscious of is what's he downloading. So if I can teach him at this age now, even though he's not conscious of it, just the art of presence and the art of silence, that to me is everything. Because if I can build that in, I can build from there. If your child's a little bit older than that, I just think back to if I was 12 and at 12 years old, I was delivering papers every morning at 6 a.m. to earn pocket money. And I was already in a mindset there of feeling broke, feeling like I've got to catch up with my friends. I can't believe my parents allowed me at 6 a.m. to go out and do a paper run in the dark at 12. And I lied about my age by 1 year to do that. I was already broke in my mindset. And that I struggled with that until I was 25. So what I would say to your children, if they're around that age like me, is what I would have loved to have heard right there is just helping me understand that I can be anyone I want to be. I can have anything I want to be if I know how to. And that if someone said, what you've got to do is you've just got to get clear on what it is and then visualize it. And here's how you can visualize. Here's some meditations, and try and give your children even my meditations, like the Secret Garden, for example. And I think children would love that, just going into that moment where they can visualize, and, because children face anxiety at school and stress. But just, I think to really wrap this, it doesn't matter whether you've got children or whether you yourself are relating to this. At any age, you can change your brain. At any age, you can manifest, because we're always in a state of manifestation, aren't we?
It's never too late.
It's never too late. And to everyone listening again for another conversation, I know this week was a lot of Q&A and answering as many questions as we possibly could. If you've got any questions for the next time Corisande and I do this, please just drop them below. And it would massively help this channel if you're watching this, if you could just kindly hit subscribe as well. Make sure you're following both me and Corisande over on Instagram as well. And I also have, if you're not already signed up, the links below in this video, a weekly manifestation newsletter where I cover a specific topic on manifestation in detail. But again, thank you from the bottom of my heart for your support. And I think Corisande and I are going to really look forward to continuing these conversations well into the future.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Speak to you soon.